Good evening, colleagues and delegates from around the world. It is exactly 18 hours South African time. My name is Lindiwe Mahlangu, and I will be your program director for this evening's summit. The summit, the Global Voice Summit theme is Economics, Capacitating and Empowerment of Youth for Engagement in Climate Change. I would like to invite Dr. Denzel Chetty, the UNISA Academic Development Open Visual Hub project leader, to welcome us today and set the context for today's summit. Over to you, Dr. Denzel Chetty.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mishlangu. A very good evening to all our students joining us. I trust that you are well wherever you are. It's quite a really cold weather in Pretoria, so I'm hoping that it's much more brighter and sunny wherever you are, and that you are safe as well. At this time, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know it's a late evening session, but it's a time for us to really celebrate some of the extensive work that you'll have done as well. I've been following the conversations on the chat together with some of the sessions that you've had, and I must say right at the outset, we are extremely impressed with the level of engagement that you have enjoyed over the past few days, but also more specifically from the start of the course. And I think throughout this, it is quite clear to see how you've progressed, how you've grown. And I think for us, what is the most important part of this is that you were able to bring your voice across these different issues that you put on the table. And that is an important part as an impact of this course. We really want to create that space for you to voice your concerns, learn the art of articulating your challenges, but also through a way to empower yourself so that your story, your narrative, your opinions, your positions are learned. I want to also thank our colleagues from India, more specifically Mr. Keshav Gupta as well for co-facilitating these sessions. And also the adult colleagues, Mr. David Opperstad, Natma Sami, and Richard Wright, and the rest of the team that have worked extensively behind it. We are grateful for all the work that you've done, and I think as we are coming towards the conclusion of this very exciting initiative, it just sets the pace for what is to come for the year ahead as well. So that said, Ms. Mishlangu, I want to say thank you to each one of you all and wish you all the best for the rest of the evening as we continue to engage and also wrap up this particular campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chetty, for your warm welcome and for setting the content for today's summit. Your vision and reflection introduction provide us a strong foundation for a meaningful discussion engagement for today's summit. Up next, I would like to welcome Mr. Opperstad to head the Young Voices Over to you, Mr. Happenstad.
All right, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have been since Tuesday. If you were part of the event, you would have realized that we were having some delegates who completed a MOOC with us last year, the STU 501 Model United Nations. And the good thing was the students who went through the MOOC applied to be delegates to join the summit, and they've been hard at work since Tuesday until this afternoon. They have been building their resolutions and going through the whole process of getting to a point where a resolution is either accepted or declined. And the students have been very, very busy. And again, thank you to our facilitators from the DS who have been tirelessly working with the delegates, running through all the information, being very patient with our students because it is the first time and we're doing it online. So it was very, very interesting event indeed. So lucky enough, the team and myself, we were in the background for those sessions 1 till 5. So we were just observing to see what was happening and how the students were moving on. So the first voices that, or committee at least, sorry, is the UNESCO committee. And the colleagues or students, the delegates there, sorry, were very busy, and they've selected their chief speaker, which is now with the delegates. Let me just explain first. We don't refer to them as the name of the person, but we actually the country that they are representing. So it doesn't matter which country in the world they were representing, it was the process that they were following. So that's quite important to really understand. So that's why you'll see UNESCO is going to be represented by Finland. So the young lady that's going to be presenting is really going to be talking about the resolution that they come up to and explain how they got there. So I'm going to hand over to Finland, and she's then going to take over from me. So over to you, country or delegate from Finland.
Thank you, David. Honorable Chair, distinguished guests, delegates and esteemed guests, our draft resolution, our committee is UNESCO, and our agenda is education for sustainable development, empowering future innovators. The sponsors here are Colombia, Finland, and Mali, and our signatories are Angola, Canada, China, Colombia, Finland, India, Italy, Mali, Mauritius, Mexico, Netherlands, Singapore, Switzerland, and Turkey. David, before I move on, do I need to put my camera on, or is this okay?
It's totally up to you. You can, and you can also maybe just share the resolution, or should I share it from my side?
I'll go through it on my side, but you can share it on the screen for others to view it.
Okay, I'll do that shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, recognizing the urgency of addressing climate changes to ensure the protection of natural and cultural heritage worldwide, recalling the Paris Agreement, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly Goal 13, Climate Action, and the UNESCO Recommendation on Open Science. Affirming the role of education, scientific research, and international cooperation in mitigating the effects of climate change and fostering resilience among vulnerable communities. Deeply concerned by the increasing frequency and severity of climate-related disasters that threaten ecosystem, cultural sites, and livelihoods of millions of people. Noting with approval the efforts of UNESCO's Education for Sustainable Development ESD initiative and the Global Action Program GAP on ESD in enhancing climate literacy. Recognizing the vital role of indigenous knowledge and local communities in climate adaptation and sustainable environmental stewardship. Calls upon all member states, number one, calls upon all member states to integrate climate change education into national curricula at all levels, emphasizing scientific literacy, sustainable practices, and climate resilience, while ensuring adequate funding and political commitment from African governments. 2, encourages the development and dissemination of digital resources, open access learning platforms, and community-based educational programs to increase public awareness and engagement in climate action. 3, recommends increased funding and investment in climate research, particularly in developing countries, to enhance capacity building, innovation, and technological solutions for adaptation and mitigation. 4, supports the inclusion and recognition of indigenous knowledge and traditional ecological practices in global climate policies and education systems, with a focus on integrating sustainable farming and conservation practices into formal curricula. 5, requests UNESCO to strengthen partnerships with governments, non-governmental organizations, and private sector stakeholders to enhance research collaboration and the implementation of climate change education programs. 6, urges member states to incorporate climate resilience strategies into urban and rural planning, including the protection of cultural and natural heritage sites threatened by climate change. 7, invites all nations to participate in international climate summits, conferences, and working groups to exchange best practices, share data, and collaborate on global climate solutions. 8, emphasizes the need for gender-responsive and youth-inclusive climate policies that empower marginalized groups to actively contribute to climate change mitigation, and adaptation strategies. 9, further requests UNESCO to establish a monitoring and evaluation framework to assess the effectiveness of climate change education initiatives and provide annual progress reports. 10, calls for the mobilization of financial and technical resources to support low-income and vulnerable nations in implementing climate education and sustainability programs. 11, proposes practical steps for scaling up solar-powered schools in rural regions of Africa, including public-private partnerships, grant-based funding, and policy incentives ensuring sustainability through long-term financing strategies. 12, recommends the active involvement of local communities in the development and delivery of ESD programs, particularly in remote areas, by integrating traditional ecological knowledge and community-led education initiatives. 13, encourages private corporations to invest in promoting green education in Africa through corporate social responsibility initiatives, technology donations, and equitable access programs to ensure widespread benefits. 14, addresses the potential environmental impact of artificial intelligence, AI technologies, including energy consumption and electronic waste, and calls for responsible AI practices that align with sustainability principles. 15, stresses the importance of transparency and accountability in managing investment and funding for climate education and sustainability initiatives, with mechanisms to eliminate fraud, corruption, and mismanagement of resources. 16, promotes transparency and open data sharing in climate research, consistent with UNESCO recommendation on open science, to enhance global collaboration and equitable access to scientific knowledge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Finland. That was very, very well done. I hope we're getting a round of applause from everyone just to see that. Look at the document that they've actually created, guys. This is the first time they've done this. They've gone through the course last year, but now they've practically applied these skills. So really, really well done to Finland. Very, very impressive. Well done. All right, so next
Thank
up
you.
then, all right, pleasure. You can stop sharing, it's fine. Let me continue. So thank you once again, Finland. I just want to quickly have a look and let's see if who's next. It should be UNESCO, and that is going to be represented by Norway. So Norway, are you ready? Okay, let me quickly have a look. Otherwise, Charlene, are you ready? Because I think you are representing ECSOC, isn't it? Okay, so while Charlene's getting ready, guys, then we'll move on to WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and that is going to be represented by Indonesia.
Yeah, should I share my screen, Mr. David?
Yes, you can go for it.
Are you guys able to see the resolution?
It's just coming up.
Yes, we can.
Yep, there we go.
Great. Yeah, well, the World Health Organization met to discuss the health impact of green technologies. And after 3 days of debates in caucus, we put forward the following resolution. Recalling its mandate to promote global health and ensure the highest possible level of health for all people, recognizing the pressing challenges posed by air pollution, especially in regions with significant disparities and the adverse health impacts on vulnerable populations, acknowledging the progress achieved through innovative pilot projects such as Indonesia and Kenya's renewable energy and clean cooking initiatives, emphasizing the critical role of technical assistance, capacity building, and data-driven policies in the successful implementation of the WHO Global Air Quality Guidelines. Bearing in mind the emergent environmental challenges associated with the rapid growth of digital technologies and large-scale artificial intelligence systems, which necessitate proactive monitoring and sustainable solutions. Noting that existing international legal instruments do not adequately protect climate migrants and that regional disparities in air quality management continue to hinder progress, regretting the challenges in accessing financial and technological resources for air quality improvement. The committee urges the WHO to expand its technical assistance programs by establishing regional centers, especially in Africa, that will provide targeted training for local regulators, deploy low-cost sensor networks, and facilitate real-time data sharing, thereby enabling data-driven policy adoptions. Recommends the establishment of regional centers for transparent air quality monitoring and public data sharing. Calls for the standardized deployment of scalable, low-cost air quality monitoring technologies across diverse regions, including remote areas with limited connectivity. Proposes the creation of a dedicated WHO committee tasked with monitoring the health impact caused by the environmental footprint of artificial intelligence and digital technologies. Calls upon the international community to amend existing refugee conventions or develop new legal instruments to recognize and protect climate migrants, acknowledging their unique vulnerabilities. Encourages local community involvement through training programs to monitor and report air quality violations. Considers the formation of a global coalition, including regional organizations such as the ASEAN, to harmonize environmental health policies, share best practices, and coordinate joint funding initiatives. Requests the WHO to establish a comprehensive framework for the ongoing monitoring and evaluation of the initiatives outlined in this resolution, with clear benchmarks and periodic reporting to ensure both immediate and long-term objectives are met effectively. Draws attention to the plight of communities displaced by air pollution and advises that the creation of green spaces and urban parks inside cities to enhance the quality of life for locals and serve as natural air filters. It notes with satisfaction the existing economic and technological assistance offered by subsidies and grants to enterprises and municipalities for the use of cleaner industrial methods and energy sources such as testing water daily. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Indonesia. That was also short and sweet and to the point. I see that you've covered everything well. And again, the document, as you guys can see, is following the same standard. So hopefully you guys can see really what these students are learning. Exactly how things unfold in the real world is exactly how they are happening in this event as well. So that's very, very well done. So if you do have any questions, please do post them in the chat, guys. And also, if you're having sound problems, please do check your volume settings and maybe even try the YouTube option as well. That can also maybe help. All right, so then let's try again Norway, who is representing ICSOC. And are you available now, Charlene?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, there we go. The mic is now working. Thank you so much. Are you going to share from your side?
If you could share it for me, I would be so grateful.
Okay, I'm going to do that right now.
Thank you. It is an honor to be before you today as the sponsor of the resolution of green technology and economic growth in Africa. And I extend my sincere gratitude to the chair, my fellow sponsors, the United Kingdom and Greece, and to all the delegates who supported and believed in this vision. My committee was the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The agenda was the green technology and economic growth in Africa. My draft, I'll read my draft now. It's recognizing Norway's commitment to sustainable development, including the Norwegian 140 million pledge to the Energy and Environment Partnership, Africa, and leadership in the African Renewable Energy Initiative, emphasizing the urgent need for sustainable economic growth in Africa, where 600 million people lack access to electricity, and climate change could cost $50 billion annually by 2050. Recalling the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, especially the SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy, 9, industry innovation and infrastructure, and 13, climate action, and the African Union's Agenda 2063, which promotes sustainable industrialization, highlighting the potential of green technologies to create 10 million new jobs by 2050, and close to $100 billion annual investment gap for clean energy in Africa. The solutions that we voted for were establishes for Africa Green Technology Acceleration Platform, co-facilitated by Norway, to a coordinating financing technology transfer and capacity building with African governments, the UNEP, UNDP, AFDB, and private partners. B, develop a cost action plan aligned with national priorities, focusing on renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate resilient infrastructure. C, mobilize $100 billion annually through public funding, example in Green Climate Fund, the NOR Fund, and private investments, example the green bonds, impact investing, promote knowledge sharing via online platforms, workshops, and regional research centers. Leveraging institutions like the African Institution for Mathematical Sciences. Urges member states and international financial institutions to A, increase financial and technical assistance to double Africa's renewable energy capacity by 2030 and reduce energy intensity by 20%. the SDG 7. B, support local capacity building programs to create 5 million green jobs by 2030. C, expand access to affordable renewable energy through decentralized solutions like mini grids and solar home systems, aiming for universal electricity access by 2030. Calls upon the private sector to A, increase responsible investments in green technology under environmental and social safeguards. Example, the IFC performance standards. B, engage in public-private partnerships to drive innovation and local employment, targeting a 20% rise in green technology investment by 2025. C, strengthen local supply chains and promote the use of regionally sourced materials. Directs the UNEP and UNDP to A, provide technical support to AGTAP and deliver annual progress reports to ECOSOC by December 2025, tracking key metrics on renewable capacity, job creation, and emission reduction. Conduct regular assessments of green technology needs, publishing findings through reports and policy briefs, and C, assist African nations in crafting policy frameworks to attract green investments and streamline regulations. Encourages South and triangular cooperation to A, share knowledge and technology between African nations and other developing countries with successful green programs. For example, the India's solar initiatives, Brazil's biofuels. B, promote joint research and capacity building tailored to African contexts. And C, leverage Norway's renewable energy expertise, such as the Enova SF initiative for technology adaptation. Emphasizes the global benefits of green technology adoption in Africa, which will A, reduce carbon emissions and advance 2030 climate action targets. B, boost economic stability by fostering sustainable markets. C, strengthen diplomatic ties through shared innovation and cooperation. D, promote equitable growth while ensuring environmental sustainability. And lastly, decides to include the item catalyzing green technology deployment for sustainable development in Africa on the agenda of the next substantive session of ECOSOC. In crafting this resolution, I began by examining Africa's current energy landscape. And according to the International Energy Agency, 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa lack access to electricity. Climate change further threatens the region with the projected economic losses of $50 billion annually by 2050. This highlights the pressing need for innovation and collaborative solutions that deliver both clean energy and economic empowerment. My research extended to successful global models of green technology deployment. The African Renewable Energy Initiative stood out, having already facilitated over 10 gigawatts of renewable energy projects. I also looked to India's solar initiatives and Brazil's biofuel advancements as examples of how South-South cooperation can drive progress. Norway's own Enova SF initiative became a model for how the public-private collaboration can accelerate technology adoption. And a key focus of the resolution was financial mobilization. The reports from the International Energy Agency emphasizes that $190 billion annually is required until 2030 to meet Africa's sustainable energy goals, with 60% allocated to green energy. This data informed the creation of the Africa Green Technology Acceleration Platform, a mechanism to coordinate $100 billion annually through public and private investments. Understanding that technology transfer is as important as financing, I consulted UN reports on capacity building, and this led me to the inclusion of the 5 regional research hubs, which will foster innovation and create 5 million green jobs by 2030. These hubs will not only develop solutions tailored to African contexts, but also ensure the knowledge remains within African communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norway. So there we go. So hopefully, guys, there's a round of applause for all our countries that really deserve it to come onto this stage to present what they've been working on. Guys, they only finished this around 4 o'clock today, and now actually come and presented their resolution to you guys. So really, really well done. I'm also going to do my rounds of applause for them. It was really, really awesome to see how much the guys have grown and what they've learned in this very small space of time, but applying what they've actually learned in the STU 501 model UN MOOC. So guys, it's really, really a good course. So again, I think we will post it in the chat for those who are interested. We do have quite a bit of a program to get through, so I will be handing back over to Lindiwe. But yes, we will post the course in the chat. So if you guys want to learn more about how these students actually got to this point where they could present a resolution, please do have a look at our MOOC. So I'm going to hand back to Ms. Lindiwe Magangu, who is the program director for this evening, to continue with the program. Thank you, Lindiwe.
Thank you, Mr. Haberstad, and thank you to the Youth Voices for sharing their outcomes from their committees. Up next on our program, I would like to invite Ms. Yashira Madi, the Institute for Economics, Justice, Climate Policy and Food System Researcher. Over to you, Ms. Madi. You can open your mic and share your presentation.
Hi, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay, let me just work on sharing my screen. Just give me a second. Okay, can everyone see the slideshow?
Yes, we can see your screen, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say thank you for having me here, and I'm so happy to be presenting today. And I'm going to be presenting on youth and climate finance and building capacity for meaningful engagement within climate finance. So I think I'm going to just start by setting some background on why youth engagement matters, right? And why it's important for youth to engage deeply with matters like climate finance. So the first thing is that young people are inheritors of the impacts of climate change, and they're the ones that have to live with it, and therefore live with those impacts, and therefore they should have a say in the financial decisions, right? The second thing is that, and linked to that, is that youth-led advocacy can ensure that financing is directed towards sustainable and equitable solutions. And then engaging youth fosters innovation and accountability in climate policy and implementation. So without youth input, financial flows may neglect social justice and inclusivity. On the other hand, there's also an onus on young people to advocate for themselves, and you cannot advocate for yourself sufficiently unless you have like a deep understanding of the subject matter and the policy landscape on which you want to engage. And in terms of climate and climate policies, so climate policies really set the vision of what we want, but the financing really reveals what is truly being prioritized and how commitments are being funded. So where is the money really going? What are the actions that we're really taking? And without being capacitated on the technicalities of climate financing, youth risk then being sidelined in decisions that shape their future. So engaging in climate finance means holding decision makers accountable for whether funding aligns with just sustainable actions, or are they merely empty promises. So I think we should start by just looking at what the state of climate financing is right now. And this is a really good image that was produced by the Climate Policy Initiative. And it really shows the state of financing in the year 2022 and 2023, right? And so there's a few main things that we can understand from this document, from this image. The first is that 136 billion Rand went into climate financing in the year 2022 and 2023. The second thing, if we look on the left, we can see that in the orange, there's private sector investment, and majority of the investment came from the private sectors, from commercial banks, from financial institutions and institutional investors, and then a small margin of the financing came from the public sector, which is that in blue. If we look on the right, we can see that mitigation makes up a majority of the financing, 105 billion, and then and mainly going towards clean energy and energy efficiency, and then a small percentage there in the yellow and the blue are dedicated to dual benefits, which is both mitigation and adaptation, and then adaptation, which is to agriculture and water and infrastructure and things that enhance our resilience and ability to deal with the crisis. And then lastly, from this image, you can see that in the middle, in terms of instruments, majority of the instruments, the main instrument that is being used is debt. That is what is mainly financing a lot of the climate action, followed by equity and government budgets and concessional loans. That is kind of like what has happened in the past. This was the year 2022 and 2023. To look at maybe what's happening now, in terms of the landscape, there's a major document, which is the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. Maybe by show of hands or in the chat, which I actually can't see, we can just gauge an understanding of how many people have heard of the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. And I haven't been here in the past 3 days of this event, so I'm sure maybe it was discussed a bit. But just to give an idea, the Just Energy Transition Plan is what the government has developed as how much we need for financing energy in South Africa over the years 2023 to 2027. And so they've decided that we need 1.5 trillion Rand over the next 5 years in the energy sector, focusing mainly on electricity, but also on transport and green hydrogen to finance the crisis. And that's the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. Part of that is the Just Energy Transition Partnership. And this is the dedicated financing that we have from international donors. So that's like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and they've committed $8.5 billion, which translates to 128 billion Rand. Although now I actually think it's no more 8.5, they've committed more, and it's $11.5 billion. And this is financing that is agreed to and is coming into the country. And yeah, so the JETP is really what is known, the financing that we know that we have, and the JET-IP is the larger financing that we don't really understand where a lot of it is coming from, even though there's plans of where we're going to source them. None of it has yet been committed, and it will reveal itself over the next 5 years. But for now, the government has a really robust plan. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, does this climate finance plan align with what youth want? And I guess before we can even get to that question, the question is then, what do young people want? And I'm sure a lot of people in this room understand what young people want. But it's also important to remember that young people are a diverse group. They're made up of a wide variety of thoughts and opinions. And there are a few places that you can find what are some of the general ideas of what climate conscious youth want for the future. So firstly, from the South African Youth Climate Action Plan, or from the Climate Champions Youth Position Paper and the yearly local conference of youth that precedes the national COP events. And these are all collaborative processes that have consulted with many young people to decide what is the direction that young people want. And they're very detailed, and I mean, you guys should read them, but this is what I've gotten from them in terms of generally what they say. All of them want, firstly, inclusion and participation, right? So this means a meaningful seat at the table through participatory processes, capacity building programs, and real decision-making power. Secondly, justice and fairness. So that's transparent governance, accountability in climate finances, and policies that center equity over profit. Thirdly, it's systemic transformation. So this is decarbonization, investment in sustainable cities, and a shift towards accessible and efficient public transport. And then lastly, a thriving environment. So that's like cleaner air, sustainable food systems, and ecosystems that support both people and planet. So yeah, let's dive deeper and just compare what the investment plan says with what, in general, youth have been calling for. So looking first at the justice element. So both the JETP and the JET-IP are really plans that both speak to each other. They say the same thing. They have similar goals. And both of them are majority infrastructure plans. That's where majority of the financing is going into infrastructure, with the larger Just Energy Transition Investment Plan committing 89% of its financing towards infrastructure. And you can, yeah. And then there's things like skills development, which we would consider more of a just element because we are upskilling people to enter into this market, and economic diversification and innovation. So this is like in Mpumalanga, there are whole towns that are dependent on coal. And when you decarbonize that, you need to ensure that the economy is diverse enough that when you're taking away the main source of income, that town can still thrive and people can survive. So economic diversification and skills development are what we see as sort of the justice elements of the JET-IP. And these have only been appropriated 0.3% and 0.1% of the committed financing. So we can see that the justice element is undermined in the financing plan. Then we can look at the youth element. So are youth considered in this Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, right? The plan dedicates 750 million to be dedicated to the investing in youth and preparing future generations for the transition. So this is like 0.005% of the 1.5 trillion that is dedicated. And it aims to, this financing will be on tackling youth unemployment through education, soft skills training, work experience opportunities, and placements. And it's mainly dedicated to and specified to Mpumalanga, where the levels of youth unemployment is higher than the national average. And then we can also look at, some of it may double up with the financing dedicated towards skills development, which is the 2.65 billion, which is that 0.1% that we talked about. And this is going to be dedicated to different things. So, for example, the Skills Hub has 0.05 billion, but this is just like a plan to train young people it's not a plan to train young people. It's just money dedicated to planning to train. And then you have the SDZs, which is the skills development zones in 3 areas. So this is like Mpumalanga, where we said we need to decarbonize. This is in the Eastern Cape, where there's an intention to build a new energy vehicle industry, and also in the Northern Cape, where there's an intention to establish green hydrogen as an economy. And so again, this is more like to train trainers and to capacitate people on the curriculum, and financing that will support existing skills development that SETA already has, or that supports the post-school education and training funding. So I think it's important to look at this for young people to question for themselves, is this enough dedication towards skills development? Are there financial and geographical barriers to accessing these skills development programs when they come to be? And what happens if we have all these skills, but there is no jobs to absorb these newly developed skills? Then we can move on to the jobs element. So that is, does this plan help in creating jobs? So we know that majority of this plan is an infrastructure plan that deals with energy infrastructure, either renewing it or creating transmission lines, or establishing the renewable energy sector. And what we know from the renewable energy sector is that the energy plants employ more machinery than they do people. So they're not really high employers. And majority of the jobs in the renewable energy value chain are estimated to be in the renewable energy manufacturing sector and not really in the electricity generation. And so the JET-IP cites the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan and estimates that renewable energy could create 365,000 jobs, new jobs by 2030, and account for a large percentage of the GDP. But it only dedicates 1.6 billion, which is 1% of overall financing, to localizing renewable energy and to creating that market and to creating those jobs. And so we can see that JET-IP insufficiently finances the localization of renewable energy manufacturing, and thus poses transitional risks and limits job creation. Similarly, in other industries, there's a plan to, South Africa already has a large automotive industry, and it's important to protect that, especially as we transition into renewable, new energy vehicles. But it's also important to understand what an inclusive just transition can look like and what a holistic just transition can look like that prioritizes forms of transport that majority of the country uses, for example, public transport. And investing in public transport has the ability to create 390,000 jobs, and it also has the ability to stimulate wider economic growth and employment. And it can dramatically decrease transport costs and the time workers spend to the transition. And this can also help in decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, more so than new energy vehicles, which are mainly an export market. It's mainly meant to, our automotive industry is mainly meant for export in South Africa. And similarly with green hydrogen, it's also intended to create jobs, but even the JET-IP itself admits that it's highly ambitious and it's a risky industry to be in, with little resourcing or security in its viability. So it's a risk to get into it in the first place. So that's one of the elements. Another element is the longevity, or what is the future that the youth will inherit. And we can look at this as the debt element. So far, the Just Energy Transition Partnerships have taken the form of debt, and they have minimal grant allocations. And so minimal financing that's coming without any onus to pay it back or without any interest. Most of it is coming as concessional financing, which is supposedly financing that's given at a lower interest rate, but the public is not clear on what that means and what this lower concessional rate actually means. And then a large percentage is also coming from commercial loans, which is given at commercial regular interest rates. And also the loans are in foreign currencies, and this exposes us to significant risks of depreciation of local currencies against foreign currencies. And this means that we'll actually have to pay more than was agreed to because the currency rates are changing, and it can lead to higher debt burdens and increase the likelihoods of defaulting on paying back. So the JET-IPs are debt-centric financing approaches, and they increase the financial burden. And it's not a problem that's just happening in South Africa, but it is a global problem. So debt servicing across the region in Africa has been rising, especially since the global financial crisis, with the peak set to be reached in 2024. And this exacerbates the current debt dynamic, where in Africa, debt service cost as a percentage of GDP has been rising rapidly, which is leading to things like austerity or crowding out public services such as healthcare and education. So essentially, we're paying more for repaying our debt services than we are for the basic services that we need as a country to run, such as our healthcare and our education. And then there's the question of the climate element, right? So does the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan align with our nationally determined contribution? So the nation's climate ambitions and its intended actions to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in pursuit of the Paris Agreement. So is committed financing aligning with our goals to decarbonize and reduce our emissions? And I won't go into detail because it can get very complex, but essentially it's our analysis and analysis of certain Labour parties and CSOs that some of these aspects that the JET-IP are implementing fall short of actually reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So firstly, the electrification plan is solely reliant on private renewable energy generations that will fail to sufficiently secure the scale of energy production that is needed. And we can see this because we have the Renewable Energy Independent Power Procurement Program that is insufficiently securing renewable energy at the scale that is needed to transition. And then secondly, the transportation investment undervalues the need of shifting to a more sustainable system of public transport. So as we said, there's a lot of money going into new energy vehicles, but this is meant for export and isn't really, there isn't significant focus on how we are going to decarbonize our transport system, and especially when so much of it relies on public transport like taxis or private vehicles for a very small minority of the population. And then thirdly, the green hydrogen industrialization plan. It's also highly ambitious. Green hydrogen is also meant for export, and there's little information on how it will actually decrease the greenhouse gas emissions of our country. And then lastly is the adaptation plan. So as we saw at one of the very first few images of how financing is being dedicated, 81% of mitigation of financing is going towards mitigation, 12% to adaptation, and 7% to geo-benefits. And most climate funds focus on energy transition, and they leave little support for resilience building measures like disaster preparedness or water security and sustainable agriculture. And this is vital for young people, because if we don't advocate for strong adaptation financing, then we are inheriting a world that is essentially unprepared for the climate impacts and climate shocks. And the cost of that destruction or that inaction will be greater than the investment that we actually need to mitigate. So adaptation financing is vital. So yeah, those are just some examples of what the investment plan is saying and how it impacts youth. And there's a lot of things that youth can do in order to get more involved in climate financing and climate finance policies. And they can demand transparency in how climate funds are allocated. They can push for seats at decision-making tables for the JET-IP implementation. They can advocate for financing that prioritizes social justice, renewable energy, and public transport over private sector profits. And they can engage in public consultation and policy reviews to ensure that the youth perspective is considered. And there's tons of platforms in order to engage, like you can engage in the local conference of youth that happens every year before the conference of parties, where youth come together and decide and what they want and how they're going to act. There's the Presidential Climate Commission also holds a lot of space for youth in terms of having youth capacitation events and youth feedback events, and it's our job to show up at those events and make sure that they are not performative and that these parties are held accountable. So yeah, those are just some of the ways that we can advocate for sustainable climate financing. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Madi. Please, a round of applause for Ms. Madi, colleagues. Next on our program, I would like to invite Ms. Nkemeleng Makwela from founder of Overcomer Dynamic Enterprise, and joining her is Mr. Yabanati Maqhina, the Youth Skills Development Coordinator in Engeli Enterprises. Over to you, Ms. Mukwele and Mr. Maqhina. You may switch on your mic and...
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you very much. As you mentioned, I am Nkemeleng Makwela, and I'll be joined by my colleague Yabanati Maqhina. All right. I just spoke with him now. He's facing some technical issues on his side, but I'll just proceed. Otherwise, he was supposed to be. Oh, yes, Puti, you are in. Perfect.
Yes, I'm in.
All right. Over to you then.
All right. Are you able to share your slide from your side?
Yes, I'm able to. Let me just do so now. Let me see. I don't know if you guys can see. Is it visible on your side?
Not yet.
Yet?
Not yet.
Okay, just a second.
Are you winning, Kemi?
Yes, I think I am winning.
All right. No, I think it's fine while you are still fixing it from your side. No, I can't see it. But I don't think it's a train smash. You can try and show it from your side. I'll continue so long for the sake of time.
All right.
All right. But anyway, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting us. I do apologize for joining late. In fact, I joined on time. It's just that the network is not really on my side today. I've tried to join on my Wi-Fi. It's weak, so I had to join using my data. Even it's also not stable. So yeah, okay, I can see it now, Ngemi, but put it on slideshow. That's better. That's much better. All right. So I think let me just jump straight to it and introducing myself once again. I think Amy already introduced herself. So my name is Yibanati Maqhina. I work with Ngemeleng. We are coming from an organization that is called Engeli Enterprise Development. So the organization is based in Gqeberha. Our head office are in Gqeberha, formerly known as PE if you don't know Gqeberha. So we do a lot of things as an organization, which I'm going to highlight today. And then our purpose of today's presentation, we are trying to speak about the opportunities that are available for everyone. I don't want to say only for youth, even though our programs focus mainly on youth, but opportunities that are available in South Africa, specifically in the green economy space. Okay, so that's what we are going to focus on, but I'll be focusing more in terms of employment, and then Gemi will focus on the entrepreneurship side. Okay. But without wasting any time, Gemi, you can proceed to the next slide. So who are we as Engeli? So Engeli is an enterprise development company that was established in 2011. So when the company was established, it was the main service that it was providing. It was to provide triple BE solution. So basically advising other companies as to how to improve their triple BE score and so forth and so on. But as a result of that, a lot of branches came from that company. So we happen to have a more division like your equity and fund management. And then we had your supply chain solution. You had then many other more. But me and Gemi today, we come under the division that is called the Human Capital Solution. And Gemi, I see you've changed your slide. Temeleng, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. On my side, it pops and goes, so I wasn't sure if it's showing. I was just trying
this is the incorrect slide that you're showing.
Is it? Is it showing now?
Okay. The incorrect one, yeah, the incorrect one is showing. Okay, it's fine, Gemi. Let me.
Semi, can you please assist on your side? Maybe
no,
show the.
Now it's fine.
Sure?
It's fine now. It's fine. Yeah, that's okay now.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay. So I was mentioning, colleague. So as Engeli, we have a lot of divisions. Just like I've mentioned, we have fund management, we have supply chain solution, and we have business support and incubation. And we also have a division that is called Human Capital Solution, which I'm going to explain today. And then we also have another division that is called Engeli Entrepreneurial Foundation. Okay, so basically the Human Capital Solution, if I can start with that, we were established in 2019, with our main focus in being implementers of the program of what is called the Yes for Youth. Basically a program that seek to assist young people and graduates to gain experience so that they can be more employable. So we became implementers of that with many of our clients, especially here in Gqeberha, being in the automotive space. Okay, so the Engeli Entrepreneurial Foundation, I think Amy will expand on that, is also another division that we have, but it's also focusing in terms of creating job opportunities, mainly for young people and women. In fact, it's not limited to that because it depends on the client at the time. But the main services of that division is basically dealing with SED programs. And then we have our GYB program, meaning Generate and Grow Your Business, where we help young people to come up with business ideas, and then as to how then do you spot an opportunity, and then how do you check if an opportunity is feasible or not. And then after that, we also have another one that is called SYP, meaning after now you have your business opportunity, how then do you draft a business plan? And then we have another one, which is IYP, meaning now you have your business, especially if your business has been running for at least 2 years or so. How then do you improve your business? How do you expand? How do you diversify in terms of your business? So those are the services under the division that is called the the Entrepreneurial Foundation, Engeli Entrepreneurial Foundation. But Ngemeleng will expand on that. And then now under the Human Capital Solution, which mainly deals with employment, the Human Capital Solution, most of the times we deal with employment. So being one of our services being the Youth Employment Solution, just like I've mentioned before, when we started, our own main purpose was to be implementers of the YES program, which we still do even now. And you will see on the following slide when I show the number of youth that we've managed to transition into the world of work. So that is our other service. And then we also have the Close the Gap program, which is basically a work readiness program that also prepares young people. Now that you've graduated or you're coming to school, how then do you get ready to be in the world of work? Because school is not the same as work. And the industry there has realized that, and something that a lot of graduates and young people are struggling with. Hence, you'd find people saying, no, we're struggling with experience, but the employers are looking for people with experience. Whereas if we can ask, what do they mean about experience? So those are those soft skills that will help you to gel, will help you to succeed into the world of work, will help you to grow faster. So another service that we have is called the REP program, or the reskilling program. So this program we've also implemented for, I think, for a client here in PE that was retrenching. It was in an automotive space. So the program seek to help those that have been retrenched as to, okay, now that you've been retrenched, you lost your job, how then do we reskill you? Or how then do we use the skill that you have to create more opportunities for you? So that is the whole program. That is the main focus, basically to help those that have been retrenched to bounce back to the labor market, or to even venture into entrepreneurship. And then we also run occupational interest assessment to kind of like help young people, in fact, not young people, everyone, but it's more like career guidance kind of assessment, so that before you choose a career, or even when you are going to an interview, you can understand your strengths. So we run those tests, especially for our young people who enter into our work readiness program. We also run learnerships as well. Okay, now just briefly, this is the track record. So far, I think even the stats is updated. We've managed to place youth, more than 1,000 youth. Some of those youth are currently permanent, right? I always joke with them and say now they even earn more than me, but I used to coach them. So we've placed them in different companies, of course. If you can see, these are some of the clients that we have. Majority of them are in an automotive space, just like I've mentioned. The reason being, we are based in Gqeberha, and majority of organizations here are in an automotive space. But we're not only limited in Gqeberha, because you can see other industries. I mean, other companies like Drive, they are not in PE. So basically, in a nutshell, this is us. So briefly, to move quickly, I've mentioned that one of our programs that we run is called the Work Readiness Program. Okay. Now, in fact, the Close the Gap program. So the Close the Gap program is the work readiness program, just like I've mentioned, or is a work readiness training. Okay. So where does it come from? So just like I've mentioned, the problem, one of the major issues for high rate of unemployed youth is because most young people do not have work experience, yet employers are looking for work experience. Now, the problem is, without experience, you can't get a job. At the same time, without a job, you can't get experience. So that is kind of a problem that youth or even work seekers, especially graduates, find themselves in. So what we've done, we've created, in fact, this is the program that was developed by Harambee, and then we became the implementing partners of that training program, which is basically a 5-week course, if I can put it that way, that prepares young people or work seekers to actually be ready in terms of their soft skills when they start at work. For example, some of our clients, even then they will say, please recruit these graduates for us, but they don't want to groom you now. They don't want to know, especially when it comes to work etiquette, to those vital soft skills that an employee need to have. A lot of them don't have such, such patience. So they would require us to take a lot of youth through this program, and then we before they even start in their premises. As a result, a lot of companies now, because some of the youth, they go through our programs, and then after the program, they, for example, a certain number get absorbed, and because of some other reason, some youth don't get absorbed. But what happens in those youth, they are still part of our alumni database. As a result, a lot of companies out there, they always come back to us because they know we have these youth that have worked before. We have these youth that have been trained, that are work ready, that has a proper mindset, the proper attitude, and the proper the proper soft skills that are required for one to succeed in a workplace. Okay, so the work readiness program is an intentional way to close the gaps in the readiness of work seekers to successfully transition them into the world of work. All right, now what do we cover? I said usually it takes 5 weeks, colleagues. It is 5 weeks. So what do we cover there? It's a training. As much as I said it's a training, I hope I'm back. Can you confirm if I'm back? Because I lost a bit there.
Yes, yes, you are.
Yes,
back.
we can hear you.
Yes, we are back.
Thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, we also coach those youth. We help them to reflect. For example, you learn time management, and then you can now, when we are having meeting, you attend late, whereas you've learned time management. So we kind of like hold that mirror to help young people to see where they can improve. So we focus on relevant behaviors for work, just like I've mentioned, how to have grit, how to have positive work, how to be proactive, also socialization for work, how to socialize at work, how to deal with your managers, how to be manager proof, meaning how to be able to deal with different kinds of managers. Because the unfortunate part, as much as we leadership styles, but at work, you can't really choose your kind of a leader, unfortunately. So you need to develop yourself to be manager proof, to work with any kind of manager. We also focus on English acceleration. I mean, a lot of young people, especially in our context in South Africa, they're coming from villages and township where they are not confident in speaking English, but they do know English. It's just that they're not confident. So we also provide that opportunity for them to be confident in English. We focus on digital literacy, and we focus on problem solving, which I want to focus on today, problem solving, colleagues. The reason why we also focus more on problem solving, we also use the problem solving module as a career guidance kind of a tool. Because one of the problems that we have from a ground level, from primary, from junior up until varsity, is career guidance, wrong career guidance. That is why a lot of graduates now are holding certificates and they don't know what to do with them. It's because there was a lack of career guidance. A lot of people went to work, studied things because they felt like they focused on titles more than on the actual work that the qualification is gonna help them to be able to do. So here on problem solving, we help youth to understand that your career has less to do with you, has less to do with your status, has less to do with the title, if I can put it that way, but has everything to do with what you can do for your society. The reason why you go to school is to gain a skill so that you can be able to contribute back contribute back to the society. All right. And then when we focus on the problem solving module, another thing that is important to highlight is that once value, especially in the labor market and even in the entrepreneurship space, is determined by the ability of meeting other people's needs or the ability of helping to solve other people's problems. So if one understands that now, one, even when you are still at school or you are still at varsity, you don't only focus on passing exams and everything, but you also expose yourself so that you grow, so that you become a better person and be able to actually deliver what the qualification is designed to help you to be able to provide. So that is the thing. That's why we focus on problem solving module. All right. Now, speaking about the problem, we expose, of course, young people to other problems that we have in South Africa. We try to discuss about the solution of that. But speaking about the problem, one of the problems that we have in South Africa, that is the reason why we have this summit, is the issue of climate. All right. That is one of the problems that we have. We have the problem of food, we have water crisis, we have economic crisis, we have energy crisis, we have rise in poverty and all the stuff. That is one of the problems that we have in South Africa. And the fact that there is a problem, it means that there is an opportunity. I always say the South Africa is a developing country, meaning that there are still a lot of problems to be solved. And the fact that there's a lot of problems to be solved, it means that there are a lot of opportunities to succeed. Okay, so that is the mindset that we're trying to push, and that is the mindset that I'm hoping even our listeners today can get to understand. As we're speaking about the climate change, we're speaking about the green economy. Yes, these are the crises that we have, but in all crises, there is an opportunity, right? The hidden an opportunity. But so I just quickly want to highlight some of the problems which I believe they've been highlighted before that we have in South Africa. For example, one of the things that I've highlighted in Stats SA is only 10% of waste is recycled in South Africa, and the majority goes to landfills. And even those landfills are even full now, so there's no space, and all that pollutes the environment. Okay, so that is the problem. Now, what is the response then to that? Obviously, there is a national waste management strategy that the government has come up with, but one of the solutions the government has designed strategies, have designed penalties for companies that are producing too much waste, and have designed incentives for companies that are very responsible, are environmental friendly. They don't just focus on milking the environment and what can I say, and just make profit. All right. Now this is where you as a work seeker opportunity lies, because all the organizations, because of these tax incentives and penalties, the organizations are running now to get qualified people who understand how to help their company to be more greener, if I can put it that way, or to be more environmental friendly. Okay, now with that being said, I just want to briefly then highlight few opportunities. You can also search these opportunities that one can specialize in, even with the career that you have, that organizations are looking for out there. Like this is the career one can pursue: waste management specialist, right? Companies are looking for people who can help them to manage waste better, because different kind of waste needs to be managed better. For example, if you deal with a lot of electrical appliances, or you're in food industry, or you are dealing with papers, so you need someone who's actually qualified to do that. So you can sharpen yourself and become that, because organizations are actually pushing and looking for people to do that. In the renewable energy space, you can be, if you are specializing in engineering now, especially in electrical engineering, remember, electrical can be general, but you can focus on this, choose your own niche and specialize on this. And being a renewable energy engineer, you can become a solar panel installer, you can be a wind turbine technician. Here in PE, we have a lot of wind farms. Specifically, some of our programs are funded by wind farms, or especially youth development programs and ED programs, so are funded by wind farms. Okay, So these are just some of the opportunities. Sustainable construction manager, if you are dealing with construction, you can focus on the green space. That is a niche that is still underserved. Or organic farming. I mean, organic farming, we know food that are organic are expensive. If you study agriculture, that is the niche, and that you can put yourself in and be more employable. And obviously, another thing is water. Is the water crisis. So you can also specialize in that, or you can even make yourself an environmental consultant, right? To help organizations, because they are, for each and every business, there are compliances that, or every company has to be compliant in whatever they are doing. So they need someone who actually understands the legislation for that. So in a nutshell, colleagues, these are opportunities that are there. So as you are pursuing your certain careers, you can, you can deviate. You can focus on this so that this can be your niche. As I'm ending the employment part, remember the end goal is to be an expert in your field, right? So just like I said before, we can all study electrical engineering, but I'm saying you can focus on the what renewable energy space. That is something that is coming up there. For example, yesterday there was a stakeholder engagement that I attended, and then one of the speakers there was from Italy. So he mentioned that there's a lot of funding that is being pumped up by the European companies to motivate the green economy specifically, and all those fundings will also be coming into South Africa. So speaking about the future, as well, speaking about technology, but the green space is also another opportunity if you really want to sharpen your skills. So I think that is where I'll end in terms of employment opportunities. I think I'll hand over to Ngemi to take you through the entrepreneurship space, and I think maybe that's after that I'll be able to take some question if we still have time. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hiba. Okay, as I proceed, just check.
Can you
just disappeared on my side? I don't know what's going on.
Colleagues, can we just confirm if my screen is visible with the PowerPoint?
You're assisting me, Semi?
Yes.
I can't see it. Yes.
I can see
okay.
it.
David, Lindiwe, can I just get confirmation? Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's there.
Yes,
It's
it is
visible. We can
as
see the
well.
presentation.
On my side, I can't see the slides.
Okay, so what we can do, Kemi, right? I'm going to present the slides. You have the slides in front of you. You can just speak according to the slide and say next slide, and I'll move it on my side. Don't stress. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Lovely. Yes, that's okay. Okay. Okay, thank you very much from my side as well. Just to add on what my colleague has already said, I believe he has covered a lot of we were supposed to cover, but just to add on the matters of youth entrepreneurship. And so we say it matters because it creates job opportunities. As he mentioned, that we are all about problem solving, right? So we need fresh minds, which are the minds of the youth, so that they come with creative solutions to those problems, right? As well as also taking into consideration the economic growth. So if we enter into the entrepreneurship space, we boost the local economies, as well as the skills development are also needed to enhance the leadership and the financial literacy as well. I'm not sure if I'm moving a bit fast, Semi, because I am not seeing anything from your side.
Kemi, you need to just tell me when to move to the next slide.
Are we on the same slides? Okay, we can move to the next slide, which is slide 16. Okay. If we are there, where do we begin? I think I believe that my colleague has already touched on that one. As we mentioned, it's all about being innovative and finding the problem and having the ability to bring a solution. And in order for us as youth to do that, we need to be hungry for success. Because if you are hungry, you do it with more energy. You do it with full force because you are like, I want this. Unlike when you are doing it for the sake of doing it. So there is no motivation if you are not hungry for success. And in order for you to do that, you need to research. I think my colleague mentioned that a lot of opportunities are there, but our youth somehow still lack knowledge. You see, so now we need to do research and we also need to seek help from people. So these kind of platforms are actually great because now they're enabling our youth to have the knowledge, or rather the information that they are looking for. And also knowing the right doors to knock at. But if we do not do our research properly, if we do not build networks, then we wouldn't be able to knock at the right doors, which might now end up demotivating us as the youth, because we're like, we've been trying, but nothing is working out, right? But for as long as we do our research properly, and all of this needs to be done with courage and confidence. So if you are not courageous enough and you are not confident enough, you delay the process of starting. Now it takes us back to, how do we start? We need to be able to knock at the right doors, these right doors, through research, through seeking for help, as mentioned already. So use the little knowledge that you have to dig further, and so that you are able to reach exactly where you are. And when you are confident enough in what you do, again, you do it with more energy as well, because you are sure of your story. You know what you are dealing with. Right. And then, as my colleague mentioned, the opportunities in the green space, I'm not going to go thoroughly in this, but just to share, I'm sorry, Semi, I think I left you. Can you please move to slide 17? Sorry about that. Okay, so as I was saying, my colleague has already touched on this. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to repeat what he has already said. But just as he mentioned, we do have the opportunities under the renewable energy, which includes solar solutions. And as he mentioned, that one of our programs are under the wind farm. We also have the waste management, as well as sustainable agriculture and eco-friendly manufacturing, which includes green products, biodegradable packaging, and then we have waste conservation, which includes purification, as well as rainwater harvesting. Right. Can we move to slide 18, Semi, please? And thank you. So we have organized some of the organizations that are offering support. Remember, these are not the only organizations. We are not limited. As mentioned earlier on, that we just need to build networks, do our proper research, seek for help from others, then we would be able to get a more lengthy information as to in terms of the support as to where can we get it. So we do have our business incubator as Engeli Enterprise Development, which is Propeller Business Incubator. And in the green tech space, we have the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality Initiatives, as well as the Cedar Nelson Mandela Bay ICT Incubator and the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. And I also attended another event with them today, and they were sharing very insightful available business support in the public as well as in the private sector. And again, we have Engeli Entrepreneurial Foundation, which my colleague has already touched on. And we have the WWF South Africa's Go Green Advocacy Program, as well as the Urban Agriculture Policy. These ones are mainly based at the Nelson Mandela Bay, but there are others outside the Nelson Mandela Bay, but we decided to mainly focus here since we are here. But otherwise, there are other, and even here in the Nelson Mandela Bay, these are not the only ones that we have. As I said earlier on, they are not limited to these. Maybe we can proceed to. So now, just to touch a little bit on more of our success stories, we have the Engeli Enterprise Development Business Support. I think my colleague has touched on, and then he said I'll touch a little bit more. So we have what we call BWOV, which stands for Black Women-Owned Vendors, whereby we support the Black women-owned vendors or businesses in terms of business development, be it how to do your finances, financial planning, how to do costing for a business, how to do your admin as well as compliance, as my colleague mentioned. And we also have another program, which is Makwe Project, as well as the Black women-owned vendors. They were not only focusing at the Nelson Mandela Bay, we also have ladies that we are currently supporting outside the Nelson Mandela Bay. We have ladies in Grahamstown, Makanda. We have other ladies in Kumha, and we also have other ladies in the Northwest, the Northwest, as well as KZN and Limpopo. Yes, so we are not only our assistance is not necessarily only specific for the people that are in the Nelson Mandela Bay. And as mentioned again by my colleague, that we are not only focusing on the youth, however, our main focus is for the youth, but we also do accommodate people that are not youth, mainly women, so to say. And then we also have a new venture creation as well, which is a business learnership, whereby we take youth that are interested in business or that are already started their businesses. For example, we have people who are now placed in different businesses. So we take them and place them to the host employers or the host sites according to their interest of business. For an example, we've got people that are in the baking industry, we've got people in the decor, as well as the barber shops as well. So what we do, we have our clients or our business partners, whereby we just place these learners so that they are enabled to run their businesses successfully through the assistance they would get at the host employer. They are learning about the theoretical side of the business they are interested into, as well as we have the assessments which they have to do monthly, so that they also do theory. So they are benefiting under theoretical knowledge as well as practical knowledge as well, while we also provide a stipend for them so that they are able to maneuver around and continue supporting their businesses as well. And just to assist, because we understand that at times as a youth, it becomes difficult to save as much as you might have this passion, but sometimes you find it a challenge to save. So what we do is we also teach them about ways of savings as well. And we also offer mentoring support on a monthly basis and any other assistance, whether they're applying for funding and all of that. And with our BWOV ladies, we also have others that are in the agricultural space as well. So the opportunities are there. All we have to do is not to be shy and just speak and look for help. The help is there. Yes. And then as I'm about to finish off, Semi, can we please move to slide 20, which is the last one before I conclude? So we have strategies for youth engagement. So we've got funding and grants which support for green startups, as well as under the incubators and mentorship, we have for skills development. Then under policy support, we have incentives for sustainability, and under public and private partnership, we have collaboration for growth. Yes, the last slide, which is my conclusion. Semi, we can go to that one, slide 21.
Okay.
So to conclude, green entrepreneurship enables youth to build businesses while promoting sustainability. With proper, they can lead the future of green innovation. The last slide, which is me thanking you, colleagues. I will just stop there.
Thank you so much, Nkemi. I think we are just gonna take a round of applause for Nkemi. Thank you so much, and for Yibanati for the presentations. I think we certainly learned quite a lot. It was really a jam-packed presentation. I think I'm just gonna hand over to David, and one of the biggest questions, we are going to deal with the questions in the chat in a short while, but one of the biggest questions that we received was, how do we actually get involved? How do we get engaged? How do we actually, let's say, sign up for the MOOC? So I'm going to hand over to David, and he's just going to give a short crash course. And after that, we're going to be asking our panelists a few questions. Thank you, David.
All right, thanks, Nathma, and thank you for the students. I see there's quite a caucus happening in the chat, so I see the skills, guys. You're using those skills that you've learned, and I see a lot of discussions happening. So it's very interesting to see what students are busy chatting to each other about. All right, so guys, I see, and there were a lot of questions about the MOOC and how do I get to the MOOC and where is it located and how do I log in? Okay, so let me show you quickly. So if you do go to the ADOB site, adob.unisa.az.za, we will share it in the chat as well. All right, so you'll bring you up over here. Then you'll see there is a login option, right? So if you log in, it will ask you for, are you a student? Yes or no. So if you are a student, you can say yes. If you're not a student, it's not a problem. You just say no and you can create yourself a login. So if you say yes, you can use your MyLife email account, exactly how you log into My Modules, guys, the same process. Once you get in, you'll basically click on the home button. And then you can scroll down. Now you'll see there are lots of different courses here. They are 100% free. There's some exciting news that's coming up about these courses. So have a look at them, see if there's something interesting that maybe catches your eye. For example, there's AI, there's basic skills for exams. Of course, that one you need to know. Mobile learning, you need to know if you're a lady and you want to know more about technology, there's a course. And of course, the one that we are dealing with today, the Model UN. So it's very easy to self-enroll. So once I've logged in, all I have to do is click on it. It'll pop up a little button saying, do you want to enroll for this course? You just click on it. It's 100% free, guys. And then you can start accessing all the materials that is available here. So there's plenty to work through. It will take you quite a bit of time. The recordings are there as well. So you will see the instructor that we had that presented this to everyone last year as well. So keep your eyes, keep your space open there, guys. Interesting things are happening on the ADOB site. So please do come and check out the website. As I said, there are very much related important courses for MOOCs, what we call MOOCs, for your studies. So please do come check them out as well. So hopefully this has helped. So now I'm just going to check with Nathma. Are you ready with the questions so that we can present to the presenters?
Yes, David, we can go.
All right, back to you, Nathma.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, please let me know if you can see my screen, David, and then we can start off.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first question is for Ms. Yasira Mahdi, right? And it was in relation to addressing the knowledge gap when it comes to climate topics. And the key word that somebody used in the chat was, it seems irrelevant to people, but I think after the presentations, we saw that it's really not irrelevant. So Ms. Yasira, if you could please let us know, how do we address this knowledge gap when it comes to climate? And I think in particular, climate financing in South Africa?
Thank you, Nathma. I think it's a very interesting question. And I think maybe there's two things there. One is the knowledge gap for people who are interested in climate and who know the importance of climate financing or climate action in general. And then so that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is talking to people who you're trying to convince of why this is relevant and why we should care about climate action. And I think convincing people that climate is important and that we should consider it in our everyday life is just talking to them in a language that people understand. So not using jargon or big words or anything like that, but making it relatable in terms of how does this impact you? What are the experiences that you will have under this climate crisis? What does it mean, right? So really coming down, and I think somebody mentioned in the chat things about incorporating this in schools and having it within the curriculum. And I think that is an important thing to touch on, which is that when people are introduced to this topic earlier on, they're more engaged and they're more able to interact with this. How do we address the knowledge gap now? If you're a person who's already interested, who already knows a bit about climate, but wants to really get more knowledge onto climate financing, on climate knowledge, I think one of the ways you can do this, I mean, at a basic level, you can follow the Presidential Climate Commission because they have a lot of events on climate and climate action and what's happening in the climate finance space, and they produce a lot of reports. But if you want a bit more diversity in your perspectives, it's a lot of different civil society organizations that are producing inputs on climate financing. So you can look at the Climate Action Network and you can be part of that network and try and learn from there. You can follow my organization. I'm from the Institute for Economic Justice. You can look at that website and there's loads of reports on what climate financing is, commenting on new policies that are being released, and webinars and videos that really explain what is happening. And there's loads of other CSOs like that. I know there's the Fair Finance Coalition that is producing like 101 schools on what financing is and how to get engaged with it. And there's so many different programs and like advocacy pathways that you can get involved in. Like there's niche things that you can get involved in as well. So yeah, I think that is the basics.
No, thank you, Yasira. I like how you took it from both sides or both perspectives. So on the one side, using inclusive language, essentially, and not alienating people with jargon. And on the other side, as youth, also capacitating ourselves with the jargon so that we do understand it. And so that when we're in the climate spaces, we don't feel alienated, but we actually feel empowered to go into that discussion and also add our voices to that discussion. So thank you, Yasira. It was a brilliant answer. The second one, Yasira, we've got 3 questions for you. The second one was, how do we advocate for greater adaptation and disaster funding? So you highlighted that when it comes to the distribution of funding, this aspect, or the adaptation and the disaster funding, is often overlooked. But we know that South Africa, as a developing nation and many other developing nations, we don't have the infrastructure essentially to deal with major climate disasters and the impact that will have on our infrastructure. So as youth, how do we advocate for greater adaptation? How can we start that today? Difficult one.
Also a big one. Yeah, I think that the problem that adaptation has is that maybe has a bad reputation under the current economic system, in that people want to finance things that are investable, that will have a return on investment, that can give them profits back. So we saw that most of the things that we're financing is through debt, right? We saw that majority of it was financed through debt, and when you finance something through debt, essentially the person who's giving you that loan is trying to ensure that they can make a profit back, right? And you are able to pay that loan with the interest. The energy sector lends itself well to that, and that is why there's so much investment in mitigation and so much investment into renewable energies, because there can be some sort of percentage back. Adaptation doesn't have that luxury, and so a lot of the financing, people are advocating for more grants in financing, which is money that we don't have to pay back in any form, so that more of it can be dedicated to the justice element and to adaptation financing. And then another way that people try and frame adaptation financing is try and frame it in the investments that could be lost, into how much financially will it cost us if flooding happens at this scale, if a drought happens at this scale. What is the cost of that versus what is the cost of acting now and spending on adaptation versus the cost of the drought that may occur or the flood that may occur. So I think it requires a lot of advocacy, and it requires a lot of getting involved, protesting, commenting on policies, because the JERIP is the main plan, and there isn't, which is an energy investment plan, and there isn't a space for adaptation plan. There's a lot of work that we as young people and we as civil society need to do in order to get financing adaptation onto the table. So yeah, just continue advocating and bring it up in all spaces that you can.
But Yasira, that makes a lot of sense, because like you referenced, one way that we can advocate, or one way that we can maybe look through a different lens, is that when we look at, for example, at the cost, or essentially the preventative costs, that might be much lower than having to fix the problems that result from it, not even accounting for things that we can't basically fix with money, for example, the loss of human life in very severe climate crisis that can take place. So it makes sense. And you touched on the last question, Yasira. So we see that we've got the debt element, and because of that, we also have an element of distrust, or maybe not an element of distrust. Maybe it's a really positive sign that as youth, we're critically questioning, where does the money come from, and what's going to happen with that money, and how's that going to impact us, not in the short term only, but also in the long term. So one student asked a question, and I think it's a really interesting question, and they were concerned, right? They said, when it comes to these loans that we're taking from other countries, will the solution then lie in increasing taxes, VAT, income tax? Is that an actual risk that we have to worry about going into our future? Or is it something that has been mitigated in some way? It's another loaded and very big question, I know.
Yeah, I mean, the financing it's majority from debt. Yes, there is other aspects of it. So some of it is coming from the budget, some of it is coming from grants, some of it is coming, a lot of it is coming from private finance, but private financiers may also take that out as debt, but that's not necessarily national debt, right? But it is a concern that governments are taking on a significant amount of debt, and there is a concern that there isn't really a debt sustainability assessment. And that's another thing that people are advocating for, which is ensuring that there's sustainability within the debts that we take, because debts aren't necessarily bad within itself, as long as we can assure that there's going to be economic security at the time when we need to pay these debts back, and it doesn't lead to the situation where our debt service costs are much higher than we're spending on education and health and any of the other public services that we have. And so debt sustainability assessments can help. If we introduce debt sustainability assessments every time we take a loan, we can ensure that we are looking at How do we pay this back? What is the interest rate? So one of the concerns that civil society have right now is that we don't know what these interest rates are. We can't assess debt sustainability ourselves. And so it needs some transparency from government to be able to tell us, is this debt sustainable? Are we taking it in foreign currencies? Are we taking it in local currencies? Because that also poses risks. What are the terms? What are the conditions? Over how many years do we need to pay off this loan? So yeah, it is a risk that it could lead to bad financial times in the future if we take on too much debt too quickly. And South Africa luckily isn't in this position like some other countries in the region, but it can be a big risk. And so we have to be careful and continue ensuring that that doesn't happen in the future.
Thank you, Yasira. And then I think it's a really positive aspect when we look in the chat. We're seeing that the youth are really posing these critical questions, and they actually, I would say they are encouraging transparency, and they're encouraging different stakeholders to really give more information. And I think that can really drive, let's say, us adopting the best solutions in the long term and the short term. Thank you so much, Yasira. Thank you for answering the really tough questions and for your presentation. I'm going to jump to Nkemi and Yebanati. I think I will go with the first question to Yebanati. And Yebanati and Nkemi, you guys really presented well together, so feel free to jump in wherever you both can. The first question is in relation to gaining career advice. So Yebanati and Nkemi, you gave us some institutions that we could really consult, but when it comes to green technology, the green technology sphere, how do we gain that career guidance in our everyday life?
Okay, I think I'll jump in for this one, Sami. Can you hear me?
Perfect, crystal clear.
All right. So the question, how then do we get the career guidance in the green technology sphere? So I think there are organizations that are advocating for green technology out there. So the best way is to expose yourself. If you are at varsity, surely there is a department that deals with green technology. But even in the private space, for example, for our situation, part of the services that our incubator, which is Propeller, provides is to promote the green technology space. You see, so the best way is for one to scout around. If you are still in adversity or in a learning institution, ask around. Surely there is a department there. But in our case, I can say you can also maybe follow us on our social medias. For example, now we are advertising. In fact, Propeller, they're advertising, but for more on the digital side. But year on year, we always have these programs that focus on green technology. So I think maybe that is the advice that I can give. But I believe there are other institutions, except other than us, which is through our incubator Propeller, that are providing the same thing. But I believe knowledge is out there. One just needs to find it.
Thank you so much, Yebanati. And I think you touched on other things as well. For example, don't be afraid to ask people around you questions, increase your network, get engaged, use social media and the technology we're using today, use it to your advantage. Use your social media also and leverage it to find more opportunities and also more people that share similar interests. Thank you so much, Yebanati. The next question is directed at both you and Kemi, so you can decide who wants to take it. So this question is a really big question, and I think it's not just in the green tech sphere, but it's related to how youth overcome work experience requirements, which often serves as a barrier when they're trying to get a job. So if the youth, us as the youth, if we don't have that work experience and we're trying to get a job in the green tech sphere, how do we overcome that?
All right. Maybe Kemi will also add, maybe I'll say something, then Kemi will add. But when it comes to gaining experience, I think it starts with career guidance, right? I think before one even go to a learning institution, you need to know why are you choosing the career that you're choosing. If you remember, when in my presentation I mentioned that one of the things that we emphasize on is problem solving. Reason being, you need to have a mindset of wanting to give value. The reason why you are going to learn, you want to equip your skills in order to give value out there in the world. So now what does that helps you to, even when you are learning, for example, at university, you don't only focus in the classroom and cram and pass exams, but you expose yourself. There are a lot of extra curriculum activities or even there are societies in the learning institutions that you can be part of that can also serve as a work experience. I think the other thing is we've reduced work experience to only thing it means you should have worked for a certain company. That is not necessarily what the employers are looking for. They want someone who has been in a professional setting, if I can put it that way, who know how to work with people, who have the ability to solve problem, who is someone who has the right work etiquette, someone who is professional. That is basically what the employers are looking for. And you don't only get that by working. You can volunteer. Through volunteering, there is an experience out there. But the other difference is you can be exposed. Some of the youth that we deal with, you find out someone has a lot of experience, but they can't mine that experience and sell it to the potential employer, right? So the other problem is a lot of people go to interview to sell themselves, because that's what you do in interview. However, the problem is you can't sell a product that you don't know. So a lot of people, they don't know the skills that they have. So it goes there. But in short, people need to expose themselves. If you are still learning, don't only focus in the classroom, right? That is even before I started this space that I'm in now. That is what I did as varsity, right? I was involved in many other things. As a result, I didn't struggle to get work. As a result, I worked. For example, my background is in accounting, but my first job was in skills development, right? Which you can say it doesn't relate, but I was already involved in facilitation from varsity. You see, so it starts by understanding what are you working towards, then you expose yourself. Otherwise, experience is there. When employers are speaking about experience, they're not only looking at you've worked for Eskom or you've worked for a big company. So exposure is everything and is there. Volunteer, get involved in extracurricular activities.
Thank you so much, Ibanati. Definitely, like the exposure and then also the development of transferable skills that you can take throughout your entire career and throughout your life, essentially. Thank you so much, Ibanati. I'm going to direct the last question at Nkemi. Okay, so Nkemi, a lot of our students were interested if they don't have a green business or they don't have a business and they don't have the funding to start it. How do they start that process?
Okay, Semi, thank you so much for that question. So, as we mentioned, my colleague and I, that we have a lot of offerings that we have, including the work readiness training. So if they don't have a business idea, but they are interested in learning about business, the GYB program that we have, which is Generate Your Business Idea, it actually speaks to the people that does not have an idea, or they have one or more than one. It could be 10 ideas, but maybe you might feel like these ideas are too many. So we assist you then in making sure that you refine your ideas and then you eventually choose the one that is feasible for you. You might come confused to our trainings, but through the content or through the training that we give, then at the end of the day, you are definitely able to actually decide which one would be the best feasible idea for you. And we do not just say, okay, now that you have discovered this is the one that you're gonna go for, but we also further assist you in terms of actually starting, as I just wrote on the chat box, that after the GYB, we then take you through the SYB, whereby we assist you now to actually start the business. And I think someone also mentioned there that Engeli wants people that are already in business for 2 years. I already said on the chat box that every program has its own specific requirements. So the GYB, which is Generating Your Business, as well as the Start Your Business, you don't have to be in operation for 2 years. That would be maybe the one that speaks to people that have now been in operation, then they are now expanding their businesses now, or rather improving, because we mentioned we have GYB, we have SYB, then we have IYB, which stands for improving your business. So all of them have different requirements. I'm not sure if I'm answering correctly, but nonetheless, even if you don't have an idea, we are able to help you that these are the business opportunities that are there. Just to share, one of our NVC learners, she is currently under the waste management. She registered her company while she is still under our NVC, which is New Venture Creation Program. So she then, through the help that she's getting, registered her own business, and then she is still continuing to get those mentoring sessions, and she is still based at her host employer, whereby she is still learning about the business. And on the monthly sessions, she's sharing a lot of insightful information and just how she has started and where she is now, like in terms of the progress that she is seeing. Now she is already approaching big corporates, whereby she has her own bags of waste. So she distributes those waste bags to different corporates, and then at a certain period, she then goes there and just collect her waste, and then she takes it to what's this? What's the word I'm looking for?
I'm gonna guess, Nkemi, like recycling centers, no?
Yes, perfect, yes. Perfect. She takes it to the research. Thank you so much, Simi. So opportunities are there, colleagues. I'm not sure if I answered correctly.
No, thank you so much, Nkemi. I think you and Yibanati highlighted two vital things. There are jobs in the green sphere, and there are opportunities for us to basically start our own businesses. And in a situation where we're not just making a profit, but we're actually making a profit for purpose. So I think you both highlighted that very, very well for us. So I'm going to say thank you so much to you, to Yibanati, to Yasira as well. And now I'm going to end off the Q&A and hand over to my colleague, David. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thanks, colleagues. This was very interesting. Thanks, Nathma. Okay, guys, so to get to the last point, or almost the end of the program this evening, we are going to be having a look at the award ceremony. So yes, the guys that were in, the delegates, you guys, the facilitators were actually keeping a record of how you were performing, and they have actually come up with a reward system which actually runs with the Model UN, the program. So I'm now going to share the winners and the recognition of who did what during the 3 days of engagement. So let's move along. Okay, so unfortunately, Vinashvi Singh can't join us at the minute, but she did send me a note just to indicate I have had a word with ECO EB panel and found that the committee to be perfect and beginner friendly. It was really honored to see everyone out there being bold and representing their stance. Even I witnessed myself and found the committee to be brilliant. Looking forward to more interactions and wishing all the best for the participants as winners. You can mold them according to your preferences, guys. You can really grow and take what you've learned further. So thank you so much, Vinesh. Just remember, guys, it's 4 hours in advance, the timeline. So these guys are already hitting Friday. They're almost in Friday morning. So yes, but thank you, Vinesh, for that. So let's have a look at the Green Technologies and Economic Growth in Africa, ESOC, and let's see who got what award. So special mentions goes to the portfolio of Malaysia and Indonesia. So well done to them, guys. You may use the clapping icon emoji, so please do go ahead and do the clapping. These guys have really worked hard. The next category is high commendation. All right, so that is going to the United Kingdom, and the portfolio was Greece. All right, and then the best delegate, the portfolio was Norway. So thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. And now we are going to hand over to the next committee, which is going to be UNESCO. So over to you, Simran.
Hi, hello, everybody. So I'm the chairperson for UNESCO. The last few days of deliberation and discussion on our agenda have provided me with an invaluable insight on the topic. And it's been a fantastic experience engaging with everyone in the committee. I'd like to take a moment to especially thank David and the administration of UNISA for organizing such a wonderful and insightful conference. Your hard work and dedication have truly made this event a memorable one. So I'll just move on to the awards now. The special mention for UNESCO goes to India and Turkey. The high commendation goes to Colombia and Mexico. And the best delegation goes to Finland. Thank you everybody.
Thanks, Emran. Much appreciated. Well done to Finland. Guys, please give her a round of applause. All right, and then the World Health Organization. This is from Prina Singhdaka. Over to you, Prina.
Hi everyone, I'm Pranay Dhaka. I was the vice chairperson of the World Health Organization. It was an amazing experience interacting with all the delegates in the committee, and honestly, I had amazing fun as it was also a new experience for me interacting with these delegates. And I would like to thank David and UNISA for organizing this, and even I had great fun. So I'll now move on to the awards. So the special mention goes to the delegate of Russia. The high commendation award goes to the delegate of Kenya. And the best delegation award goes to the delegate of Indonesia. Thank you, everyone. I had amazing fun.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for staying with us in the event. I know it's really late, or should I say really early in India, because 4 hours, you're actually past midnight. So really do appreciate it. Thank you for staying with us for so long. So the last item on the agenda, guys, is really the closing for this summit. I really want to say thank you to everyone that's been part of this summit, from you, the delegates, the audience, coming out, spending time, seeing what's been done, getting interested. I see lots of questions have come in an email and on the chat. You guys, hopefully you've learned a lot from this. I hope you've seen there's a lot of opportunities from all the presenters we've had. Really appreciate each and every one of them. Nikki and what's the other chap? Yiba. I know we use their short names, not the long names. Thank you so much. And the other presenter, the names just passed me quickly. Thank you so much for coming out and presenting. We do appreciate it. It was really interesting hearing from you guys. Sammy and the team, Lindiwe and Dr. Chetty, and of course Prof. Mahanu, who opened the event. It was really special to have all these colleagues here, considering how busy they are and their schedules. It really made a big difference. But really, guys, thank you to the audience sticking with us, working through this, the technical team in the background that have been running up and down and sharing and copying and pasting and all these things that we get up to make this event really enjoyable for all of you. But of course, thank you to everyone for coming, and the delegates, thank you for your absolute commitment. I see your flags are still there on your profile pics. Just remember what I say to you guys. From tomorrow, please change your profile pictures back to your exam-related pictures. Okay, so you must have your faces back again. You can't have the flags anymore because we don't want the exam department coming to us saying, what did you do to the students? So guys, please just remember, change back. I will even send you an email. And congratulations as well. As I said, the awards, thank you for the facilitators and Keshap and his team. You guys were awesome. Really pushed the boundaries. We really didn't see how this all will unfold, but as we've gone through it, it really does make sense, and I can see the students have absolutely loved it. Yes, get involved, Fabian. I see your hand has gone up. It's quite late already, but guys, use the chat. It's really, we can try and answer your questions there. You must understand it's been a very long 3 days, but I'm glad you guys have stuck with us. Guys, have a blessed day further. Please visit the ADOPS site. We will share the links again. Enjoy the courses that are there. Enjoy your studies, and all the best for 2025. Stay blessed, guys. Thank you and bye-bye.